morning, everybody. It's Jean here. Jean's Block Party 2019. We are on blocks 11 and block 12. Unbelievable. This week, as I was telling you last week, I'm changing my colors ways up. I'm doing bright red and white, and then like a maroon, like a burgundy and cream. This week, it's my burgundy and cream. So block number 11 is a very pleasant little star. I've used 3 fabrics here. Two, basically a light, medium, and dark to get the contrast of this sort of twirling star here. Again, a simple 9 patch. That's sort of like what it's, settling into. Although I have had people say, oh, can you do an applique, which is a little bit difficult for me because I don't know how to put stuff on the computer. But like last year, we did an applique heart, which you guys just made your own heart. That was a raw edge applique heart, and I thought maybe this year I'll do an actual an applique that has a backing that you turn, so it's a clean finished edge of a heart, and then maybe some corners. But I'll be doing that. I'll be thinking about that in the next few weeks. And also a foundation piece project, very simple. And again, I have to figure that out. But it's early days. But this is block number 11. It's real sweet 9 patch, but we're doing another newer skill here with making this unit here with the 3 triangles that I show you how to do it. Be real careful how to do that. I will be showing you now block number 12 because I'm doing this. I'm doing the 2 blocks a week. This is block number 12, and I just thought it was so pretty with the 2 bows. So we're doing stars and bows this week. This one again is a 9 patch. This is very simple because although it doesn't look it, I mean it looks something, doesn't it? Like wow, But it's a simple 9 patch with just a few corner units again, which I show you how to do. I really appreciate everybody sending their pictures into the web, into my my web page, and I have must have 20-25 blocks of 8 coming. Much easier. Thank you so much. And then we can really see your quilt evolving. It's wonderful. Quite a lot of red and white quilts. And I think the one person actually has got the same fabrics that I did. Really, really nice. But how it's going to evolve. I will be putting, I believe, I set these out. We're doing 42 9-inch squares, which ends up about 50 inches across. And then whatever it is down, I don't know what it is down. I don't know how big the quilt's going to end up. I do want to add a bit of sashing, but I think if I do 2-inch sashing or 2.5-inch sashing, the quilt will be too big for you beginners to try to quilt. Maybe. I'm not sure. That's where you'll be needing a bit of yardage to get your sashing, like you're sashing all the way across and all the way down. But again, as we come to that bit, that's way at the very end, of course, to put our quilt top together. I will be telling you that. But I'm trying to think, I'm going to put my head together with Jen, what she thinks about the size, what we want the size to end up. But anyway, that's down the road. This is block number 11, and this is block number 12 in my block party. So I hope you enjoy it. Making them. This is just delightful. And again, I thank you very much for following along. And yeah, coming along on this quilt journey with me. So I hope you're enjoying it, folks. Thanks a lot. We will see you next week. Okay, see ya. We are at block number 11. I'm going to start making block number 11. And I've given you the cutting instructions to a certain extent, and then I'm going to show you how I'm going to cut these a little bit more. But I think by now you've gotten the cutting instructions the way I've done it. You can sort of freeze this, or whatever you do at the end to get your instructions. So we have 3 fabrics in this block. I'm using a small dot, I'm using a dark, and a medium. And this block, hopefully, will turn out that it will be a nice contrasting star. with this as the darkest part here. So I'm calling this fabric A, B, and C. Fabric A, I need you to cut fabric A. You need to cut 5 3.5-inch squares. 5 3.5-inch squares. Cut 1 4.25-inch squares. Now again, for the looking at our ruler, 4.25. Again, not to treat you like idiots, but if you need a reminder, the 4.25, you go 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's not the first little line, it's the second one, the second biggest one. 4.25. So you have 4, 4.25. The bigger one is 4.5. The next bigger one is 4 3/4 and 5. So we want 4.25-inch square for fabric number 1. Just 1. Now I'm going to do this right now. I have my 5 3.5-inch squares. Put them aside. I'm going to cut my 4.5-inch square here. I'm going to cut that on the diagonal twice. Okay, I'm going to lay it down on my board. I'm going to go take my ruler corner to corner, and I'm going to open my cutter very carefully. Now I'm not going to move that. It's a little bit skewed, but I can do this. And I'm going to come back on it and cut it twice. I'm going to hold my ruler right on the diagonal, slowly so as not to shift your fabric. So that's what that means. Cut twice on the diagonal. So now I have for fabric A, I have these pieces here. We'll put them aside. Now for fabric B, my medium tone, I've cut 1 4.25-inch square. And I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to cut that twice on the diagonal. Putting my rule from corner to corner, holding it firmly, opening my cutter, lifting my ruler, shift it a little bit, just scratch them together, and then corner to corner, and there I've subcut this fabric B into these units here. Put that aside. Now fabric C, I want to cut 2 3 7/8-inch squares. 3 7/8 inch. Now remember, your 3 7/8 on your ruler is 1, 2, 3, is the little tiny line right before the 4. The little tiny line. Remember, it's 7/8 right before the 4. So I've cut 2 3 7/8 inch. Now for both of these, I'm going to cut these once on the diagonal. Both of these, I'm going to cut one time, each square, corner to corner, on the diagonal. So there we have our cutting instructions all down. Now I'll show you what I'm going to do next. The first step in making this block is we're going to take fabric A and fabric B. We're working with that now. Now remember, we've subcut into these small triangles that we cut on the diagonal. What I want you to do, you have to be very careful here because you have to get your placement correct. We're going to take our 4 triangles from each fabric A and fabric B. Now I want you to do this sort of one at a time. You can sew them maybe in a chain method, but you have to be careful with the placement. I want you to take your one triangle in front of you, your darker or your medium tone, and then with the pretty sides together of your light, this is my pretty side, my right side, I'm going to put that face down on that triangle there, scratch them together, and on this left hand side I'm going to sew them 1/4 of an inch. And I will put pins here to remind me that I'm sewing from this end here up to there. Okay, so I'm just going to lay these out right now. Pretty sides down, pretty sides together. And pin them so I know which seam to sew. You're going to sew every seam exactly. So put them in front of you. It's easier to do it this way. You've cut them perfectly straight. Or you've subcut them. It's a bit fiddly. Excuse my hands. I know what I'm doing here. Doesn't look it. So I'm sewing this seam here, pretty sides together. I'm going to take this over to my machine. And I'm going to sew this seam here together. I'm at my machine, and I find it easy to have everything either to the right or left of my machine. And what do I say? Somebody said, "Oh, you're sitting right in front of the needle." Exactly. And now what I'm going to do is where I pin them together, I'm going to put my presser foot. I'm going to do a 1/4 inch seam. Taking my pins out carefully. Go slow, because this is important. Right along that seam. And then it's how important it is to keep have your pins properly, because you could sew that long side, so you know you're sewing this seam here. And I can chain piece them. I'm going very slowly. Pull it to where I know it's to be. Think about it. And then you're going to open them up. And what are you going to do? You're going to press to the dark side. You're going to set these seams, and then you're going to press it over to the dark side. It's not a bias. This is not on the bias, but you want to be very careful when you're ironing these pieces here, because they're fiddly. They're the smallest units that we've sewed, and right off. They're the smallest units that we've sewn so far in our block party, and you want to be careful not to distort them. So I've done my chain. I'll just take them apart like that. I'll go over to my machine, my ironing board, and I'm going to open that up carefully. I'm going to press that seam, set the seam, and then with the dark on the top, I can just roll that bit up there and press that unit real nice. I have stitched these units together. They're identical. And now what I'm going to do is, before I sew them to make the block, I want you to see that you have, remember we were talking about these little dog ears. And perhaps it's not necessary, but I like to just trim them off. Just trim them off, and they will all have gone on the exact same side to the dark, because you've pressed up to the dark. I just like to make that nice little point. So just cut off that little dog ear. And there you go. There's my little dog ears. So now we have these units here, okay? 4 exact units. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take our fabric C pieces, and what we're doing is we're making our block, our 1 unit. Okay? And how we do that is we just lay them out, see how it's going to be, and look. So here is our little block. I love to lay things out so I can visually see what I'm going to be working with. So there is our lovely 3-pieced unit. We are making a 9-patch, but again, we're doing a little bit more intricate, more interesting, I should say, and a little bit more cutting and a little bit more piecing. But this, oops, my pincushion is under my tripod. So this, oh, mate, sorry. So this is what we want to end up with. Okay, so now what I've done is I've put this piece, I put that piece, how it's visually going to look, and what are we going to do? Very carefully, we're going to stitch. We're going to put this pretty side over, and look, it is the exact size if you've stitched it properly. If you've sewn this unit properly, and you've cut this one properly, look at that. Well, that's just a little bit out, but that's okay. There you go. It's almost properly. Oh yeah, that one's good. That was just a sliver out, but that's when it comes to squaring up. So I'm going to put the right side, the pretty side, onto this. Now, this is where you have to be careful. We're going to stitch, just like we did before on that diagonal, that long line. We're going to stitch here on this line. This is on the bias, both edges here. Both this here and this here is on the bias. So when you go to stitch that, be very careful that you do it ever so slowly, just like I did it. You can do, oh no, there, oh that does fit. Just have to sort of scratch them together. There you go. Because you don't want to pull this through your machine, this long seam that you're going to be doing now. You don't want to pull that through your machine. You're wanting to just stitch that very slowly, starting at one end, and then stitch it right off. And if you're not comfortable doing the chain piecing, then by all means start and then stop. But it's this seam that we're going to be stitching. Okay, so we're going to put right sides together, pretty sides together. We're going to make that unit. I am at my ironing board, and I just wanted to show you the unit that we've just stitched here. And as I said, I want you to do that very slowly, and just let the machine do its job. I've set these seams with what I say, let the machine do the job. Let the machine, like, just with the feed dogs on this seam here, just roll that up real nice. Let the machine just take that through. Your tendency might be, when you're starting here and wanting to stitch there, is to pull it a bit. Go slowly, and let the machine, let your sewing machine just pull that right on through. I'm setting my seam, and I'm taking it by the dark, and I'm just rolling and nudging. Remember, this is on the bias, and you want to keep your square, your little unit block here, as square as possible. Now I might have to square these up, but I've shown you how to do that. You just want to nudge that up, not get it all wonky and not out of shape. I use a nice hot dry iron. By all means, if you want to use steam spray, starch, water, sometimes I give it a spritz with water. But I find if my iron is lovely and hot, then I get a nice crisp block here. And there's our pretty three-piece block. Look at that. Now, I am going to go over and I'm going to cut off these dog ears on the corners there. I'm going to cut them off on all of these units here. And then I'm going to see, and these units here should be measuring 3.5 inches square, and I'll see if they do. I'll see if they do. I've set my seam, I've ironed to the dark, and as you can see here, I have cut off all those little dog ears. Now what I want to do, and again, I keep reiterating that in a 9, let me just show you, not that it's incredibly necessary, but in a 9-patch unit, for a 9-inch square, a 9-inch finished square, you have 9 units, and these all measure 3.5 inches. 3.5 inches square. So that's just sort of a math, which I don't do math at all, but that's what it is. So now we're ready to put our 9-patch together. But when we have a little bit more interest. But I want to make sure that these units here, which have a few, seams and stuff, I want to make sure that they're perfectly square. So what I do is, as you can see, I've lined up that center diagonal, which is on a rule, and it's just a tiny sliver to make that perfectly square. I'll just square these up. The rulers have really do come in handy to keep your your block really lovely and square. Again, there's just a little tiny bit there, a little sliver, and then I'll just turn it over here. 3.5 inches, 3.5 inches, and that's perfect. Again, you're saying, oh, it's just literally a little tiny sliver, but that little sliver can make the world of difference. So I'm going to put that line there, and I'm going to do it on just a few of these. So there's one there, and on the top there. And there's my nice square. And then here we go. My 3.5 inches, 3.5 inches. Oh, that one was a little bit wonky. Yeah, I see that. I'll have to square it up down here. So, you know, you think you've cut really good. I didn't cut the good at all there. That really stunk. So it's a little bit crooked. I'm not proud, I'll tell you. And then over here, you can see that's out a little bit. Wow, it's out a lot. So you see that? You see that? That's a good, like, whatever it is, an inch away. Now it's lovely and square. So now, get rid of all that. Now we're just going to put our 9 patch together. So now this is the way. You always start with a center square, right? You always have your center square with your 9 patch. And then you can do this. You can put your 4 pieces on your corner, because our light's going in the corner. Is that in the frame? Oh, yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, sorry about that. So here we go. And now we're going to set our little twirling star. So these are going, this star I'm making so that the dark is over here on the corner there. And it's like this. And as you can see, it's evolving with my two-tone, my lovely two-tone star. And then that one there. And there we have it, folks. A pretty star, a pretty two-tone star, lots of contrast. You can make it even higher contrast if you want. You can make this or lower contrast, whatever. But you're using 3 fabrics in this one. And again, here we are at the end of the day. What do we have? We have a simple 9 patch, but with a little bit of interest. It's so pretty. So I'm putting this one. I'm going to do, again, I'm going to put the pretty sides. I'm going to go this way. I'm going to take it over to my machine. And I'm going to stitch this seam here, and then I'm going to stitch this seam here, and then I'm going to come back with my finished part, my finished star, because you've seen me do this. We're going to stitch this unit here, this row, we're going to stitch that row, we're going to stitch this row, and then we're going to come back and we're going to stitch this row to that one, and this one row up to that one. And what you're matching here is you're just matching your points here. You're matching here, and you're going to nest your seams beautifully. You've known how to do that now. Figure out you're going to be pressing most probably this seam's going that way, these seams are going that way, and then you're going to nest these seams together. And then I'll be back with my block. I wanted to show you that I've just sewn these units together, but I wanted to show you that sometimes the rules in ironing and pressing, you have to throw out the window just slightly, maybe 5% of the time. I was saying just to you how I was going to press these. If you turn around, I always say listen to the fabric. Listen to where the fabric wants to go. And in this instance, my fabric wants to go to the light. And I'm not going to fight it. I'm not going to fight it. These, because I always feel if your back lays really lovely, then your front will lay really nice, and it's going to be okay. These seams here, because there's all of these seams here, they were telling me they wanted to be pressed out, but that's to the light. And these seams here were telling me they wanted to be pressed in, but that's to the light, and the same here. So I did what my fabric told me to do. Instead of fighting this, all of these seams here, I pressed to the light. And now my fabrics, my block is laying very, very smooth. It's going to lay very smooth because I've done that. And I'm okay with that because I've stitched it. Why they say press to the dark is sometimes that your dark fabric can shadow through on your light. But if you see here, we have a layer of white, for me, it's a white dot. And there's no dark red behind it because I've sewn them and I've cut them perfectly. So that's the reason, if you've cut a little bit different or if there's a shred. Now, not that I'm a perfectionist, but I do have a red and white quilt here. And I will, at the end of the day, go back and make sure, like that I don't have little red fibers, red threads showing through my white, because they will show through. If you are an experienced quilter, you know, if you have a sashing and all of a sudden you put it together and you see a little black thread from a fiber. So again, I'm not being a perfectionist, but if you can make your block as tidy and as neat as possible in this construction stage, then you're set to make a lovely quilt and a lovely quilt block. So now what I'm going to do, my ironing is done, my orientation is perfect. Now I'm going to go and I'm going to stitch these. I'm going to nest these seams together and we will have our block. So there is my block 11. There it is. It is so pretty. I'm slightly out. One thread there, one thread there. Oh, let me see. And then I have to square it. Oh, I'm a little bit short. Oh, mate. Oh, you didn't see that. Oh, jeez. I'm a little tiny bit short there and a little bit tiny bit big there. Look at that. That's all right. Yeah, so I'll just take off that little, yeah, actually you can see that. Just that little strip right there. I'm a little bit short right there. That's okay. So there is my block. There's my pretty star block. I love it. Block number 11. So I hope you enjoy this. You'll have seen it in the beginning. And again, my back looks pretty nice. Again, see these little red fibers there. I'm just going to pull them away from my white. If you have a high contrast, make sure you don't have any of your threads in your white or in your neutral fabric there if it shows through. But there is my block number 11. Thrilled. Very pretty. All right, folks. Thanks. See ya. Oh yeah, I'm back. I forgot to tell you guys that you have to, or that you, I would like you, Malia was saying, if you would mind please giving me a thumbs up and a like on this video. I know a lot of other people say that, but that's just to keep me something in YouTube, going in YouTube. So comment, like, whatever you do, and a thumbs up, ring the bell, whatever that is. Malia says you must do that at the end of each one of your videos. So here I am. I'm saying that. Thank you so much. And we will see you. Bye.